What's up, Booktube? It's Leah Cooper here, and today I am going to be talking about the Booktube SFF Awards. For those of you who don't know what the Booktube SFF Awards are, I think it says a lot in the title what they are, but I'll recap real fast. Basically, it's a community awards thing. There's a Goodreads group. It is hosted by a bunch of prominent SFF booktubers. The shortlist is compiled from the most popular or the most nominated books by the community, and then over the next couple of months there will be a bunch of community hosted read-alongs. There will be discussion video topics called the Book Babbles, run in conjunction with Top 5 Wednesday. I think there's usually giveaways for each of the books in the shortlist, and then at the end of the reading period there will be a community popular vote as well as a judged vote from the booktubers who run the event. So the first year I was really active on Booktube, that would have been 2017, I read a fair number of books on the shortlist, and I kind of did reviews. Not for all of them, but for most of the books I read for it. Didn't read everything, but you know, this was like my first year on Booktube, so I felt like I did a pretty good effort. Last year, I wasn't super hyped about the list, and I was in the middle of a reading slump, so to be honest, I read like three things from the short fiction category. I can't remember. Binti, Home, and All Systems Red were definitely on the short fiction list. I don't remember if Down Among the Sticks and Bones was as well. Was that the third book? Anyway, and then I just didn't read anything else from the awards. Didn't really follow it at all. This year, I really like these awards. They're, you know, focused on science fiction and fantasy. They have a good number of categories. The shortlist is okay. You know, every year to some degree it is just a straight up popularity contest, so a lot of times there are things on there that are just head scratchers to me, but the point is this year I want to do a better showing. I want to put in a better showing at reading more of the books and doing reviews for them. This video is going to be my TBR / I guess reaction to the shortlist, because I will discuss a few of the books that I'm just not going to read and why I won't read them. I will also leave a link to a couple shortlist announcement videos if you just want to hear what the books are on the list with no filter from me, just from the, you know, organizers, and I will also leave a link to the Goodreads group so you can follow along. So starting off in the science fiction category, the first book that was nominated, and one I intend to at least attempt to read, and I think I'll read all of it, is The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. So from what I understand, this is a alternative 1950s science fiction dystopia, and I think there might be some space colonization in this, if I'm not too mistaken. I think it's got a lot of ladies characters. Just this cover evokes, shoot, what was that NASA movie that came out a couple of years ago about all the black women who did all of the math for NASA? My mind is blank. Looks like they're trying to evoke that, so yeah. The next thing that was nominated is Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. This is the third book in the, I don't know what this series is called, Wayfinders universe, maybe? So a couple of months ago, I did read, finally, The Long Way to a Small and Green Planet, which is the first book in this series, and if you caught my wrap-up, I wasn't a big fan. I listened to it on audiobook. I was glad I listened to it on audiobook because I wouldn't have finished it at all if I'd been reading it. I hadn't planned on reading any more in this trilogy, but I did check on Twitter, and people are saying that you can read book 3 without having to read book 2. Well, they're more like companion books in the same universe. So I'll attempt number 3. I will attempt Record of a Spaceborne Few, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to get it on audiobook again, though, assuming it has the same narrator, which it should. And then the third book in this category for science fiction is Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This is going to be one, or Victoria Schwab. I don't know which pen name she writes under for this duology. This is the sequel to Vicious, which is one of her older books. Here's the thing about Victoria Schwab. she's crazy popular on Booktube, and I don't really get it. I have read 4 of her books and not really cared for any of them. And I feel like 4 is plenty of chances. So I have, and especially considering this book is a sequel, so I'd have to read Vicious to even read this one. I'm just not going to do that to myself. If there's some, like, if a ton of you want to see me attempt to read them, I could do that, but I don't see that happening because, like, not enough people care about my opinion about books for me to, like, put myself through that. I mean, like, in the past, I've read all 3 books in the Shades of Magic trilogy. Conjuring of Light was, like, one of the worst things I read in 2017. And I also read The Savage Song, which was, like, fine, but not good. The Darkest Shades of Magic trilogy, the first book is the strongest, and they get worse the further in you get. Like, I don't think her plotting is particularly good. Her characters are too uneven. Sometimes they're okay. Like, in the first Shades of Magic trilogy, they're fine. A couple of the characters in the second book are good, but then they just completely go to shit in the third book. So it's just like, I don't want to do it. So I'm planning on reading 2 out of 3 in that category. So then the first book in the fantasy category that I do plan on reading is Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Something about a thief, industrialized magic, and a secret war. I don't know. Maybe kind of steampunky? Maybe? I don't know. Looks like high fantasy, and it's like over 500 pages, so I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm going to talk about these out of order. The next thing that's been nominated in this category that I will definitely read is Circe by Madeline Miller. So I just read Song of Achilles in December, and yeah, I thought it was okay. And in that video, I did ask if anyone thought I should read Circe. Mixed response to that, but since it's been nominated, I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and hopefully it'll be pretty good. I do like Madeline Miller's writing style, so I think it'll be a pretty quick read. And then the third book that was nominated in the fantasy category was Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the sequel to Red Sister, which was nominated last year in the Booktube SFF Awards. So last year, I honestly didn't want to read it. It was one of the books in, like, the fantasy category that just kind of, like, turned me off from the shortlist, because fantasy nun assassins it's not a thing I'm interested in. I know, like, that piques a lot of people's interests, but for me, I'm just like, no way in hell. So, to be fair, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to read Red Sister. I think I'm going to try to get it on ebook from my library. I will give it like 150 pages, because it is a high fantasy, so it's like 500 plus pages. I will give it a go. I will see if it grips me, because, like, just based on the premise, I'm not interested in. So we'll give it like 150 pages. If I get through it, if I enjoy it, I will try Grey Sister. There you go. That's me trying to be, like, open to new things, right? Because just in general, really long, epic, high fantasy is not my deal. Then in the best debut category, I'm going to try all of these books. The first one that was nominated was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I think this is a YA fantasy, possibly about subjugation. Like, I think it's about, like, magic, or the people who had magic were eradicated a decade before the setting of the story, something like that. This is one of those YA books that got super hyped, and that alone was enough reason for me to be leery of it, just because in general I find that I don't gel with super hyped YA books. I tend to enjoy the ones that people find difficult or confusing, or that had a lot more of a mixed reception. So I wasn't super into this. There's also, like, the Twitter controversy with Tomi Adeyemi. I'm not saying she's canceled or anything. She made a dumb mistake, and she didn't seem super apologetic about it. Like, just in case, for those of you who don't know, this is her debut novel, and, like, she did hit a bestsellers list or whatever. Congratulations to her, etc. But then she decided to go accuse Nora Roberts of plagiarizing the title of her book to get readers. As though Nora Roberts needed to get readers. It's absurd. Like, that's just lols. But on top of that, the thing she was, the title that she was accusing Nora Roberts of plagiarizing was Of Blood and Bone. Like, girl, I mean, I published a series in 2014, and the series is literally titled The Blood and Bone series. Blood and Bone's not a unique phrase. I had a Twitter friend comment that, like, in Australia, blood and bone is a colloquial term for fertilizer, especially used by, like, her parents' generation. It's not a copyrighted phrase. It's like that gal in Romance a couple of months ago who was, like, trying to trademark the phrase cocky and was reporting literally anyone with cocky in their titles to Amazon to, like, get them taken down. Like, so it's not the end of the world. She's not canceled or anything. But it takes a book that I'm not really interested in and just like, oh man, okay, well, I guess, again, I'll give it 50 pages because it's a YA book, so you gotta grow me faster than halfway point. So I will give it a chance. We'll see how it goes. I don't have a whole lot of hopes, but maybe that's just because I'm prejudiced against hype to books. I am a little bit, just because I've been burned by too many, you know? Okay, then the next thing, this video is going to be kind of long and rambly, I apologize. The next thing that was nominated in the Best Debut category is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Hopefully I haven't completely butchered their name. And this is a high fantasy that's influenced by Asian culture. Don't know what the plot is. Maybe it's about an assassin? I'm gonna look it up on Goodreads. 1 second. I think it's about, like, a peasant who's taken in to, like, a Royal Academy type thing to learn something. Yeah, high fantasy, man. Like, long, epic high fantasy. Not really my jam. This is, again, another quite loved book on Booktube. I'll give it 150 pages. We'll see. If it doesn't grip me, I'll DNF it. But maybe I'll love it. Who knows? And then the third book that was nominated for this category is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. And literally, of, like, all the books on this entire shortlist, this is probably the only one that's truly in my wheelhouse. So Trail of Lightning, I think, is contemporary or near future dystopian paranormal novel. I think it's about possibly, like, a near future natural disaster type dystopian America where people now have to fight mythical monsters, and the mythical creatures are taken from Native American folklore. That stuff's all pretty much my jam. I love a good paranormal influenced by mythology and a paranormal monster slayer, sure. I hadn't intended to pick it up just because I think it is the first, it's definitely the first in a series, and I don't have a whole lot of time to be, like, finding new series to read, but since it's been nominated and I've heard nothing but good things about it, I will go ahead and give it a go. Then the next category that I do intend to read is the Best Middle Grade category. The first book that was nominated in that category is Wondersmith, which is the second Morgan Crow book. The first Morgan Crow book was nominated last year for Booktube SFF Awards. I had planned to read it, but I just never got around to it. So this year I will at least attempt to read the first Morgan Crow book. Probably read it because it's middle grade. So even if it's not super my jam, it'll be a quick read. And if I like it, I will go ahead and read Wondersmith. The second book that was nominated in the middle grade category is Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. So this is the first book in, I think, an Own Voices contemporary fantasy middle grade series about a girl whose mother is an archaeologist. Her schoolmates basically challenge her to, like, rub a magic lamp in the museum, and she sets loose a demon. So that sounds adorable and like something worth checking out. So I'm going to do that. And then the third book that was nominated in this category is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. And again, I'm just not going to do it to myself. Unless there's some like overwhelming surge of people who really want me to read it. One category I'm not going to read from in its entirety, or even very much of, is the graphic novel category. I'm not super feeling graphic novels. I do have Monstrous Volume 3 out from the library. I was already intending to read this because I've read the first two, so this is just like for me. Like I literally already had this on hold at the library before the shortlist was announced. So I'll read this. And then for the short fiction work, I've already read Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. And then I do have Beneath a Sugar Sky from Shannon McGuire. This was available at my library today, so I went ahead and grabbed it. I have read the first two in the series, the Wayward Children series. Didn't like either of them. I don't get the hype. This is another one where like her writing's fine on a sentence by sentence level, but I think her third acts are not good and just disappointing. And they're kind of endemic. They kind of exemplify poorly written third acts in short fiction. So, yeah. I think this is about one of my favorite characters from the first book, though. So, one last chance. One last chance. It's short. This will take me a day to read. I will attempt it. You shall see. I will do a review of this, though. And then the third book for the short that's been nominated in the short fiction category is Binti Masquerade by Nadia Korafor. I read the first two Binti books last year because I think the second one was nominated for the Booktube SFF Awards. I didn't like either of them. This is like really becoming a running theme, isn't it? Like my tastes don't jive well with Booktube in general, but here I am, like all excited about the Booktube SFF Awards. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I just like to torture myself. I want an award to read and review. There's enough variety in the Booktube SFF Awards that I feel like I can do that. I haven't found an award that I can read the entire long list or short list for and do reviews for. And that's like, I want to do that. I just haven't found the award that's like perfect for me to do that with. So anyways, I read the first two Binti novellas. Didn't like either of them. Don't get the hype. I think the world building is good, but I don't care for any of the rest of it. I don't like the characters. The plots are strange to nonsensical, and the writing feels like it's for middle grade. Like it's so simplistic. It feels like it's written for children, but it's not. So I don't get it. So that being said, I don't plan on reading Binti Night Masquerade. I mean, I guess if a bunch of you tell me it's like way better than the first two, I could. Again, it's short, so it wouldn't be a huge time investment, but I just don't foresee myself enjoying it. And I don't think anyone wants another review of me talking about how I don't get the hype. So yeah, at this point, no plans to read that. Last, I think this is the last category, is Best YA. And I think I'm just going to give this category a complete miss, because the first book that's nominated is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. And I won't read Brandon Sanderson, period. Don't care if you guys want me to read him. I'm not going to. Second book that's nominated is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is like the Lazarus Strange series. I might be getting his name wrong, but yeah. The first one was, what was that first book called? Strange the Dreamer. It was definitely nominated last year. And I had it in my library as like a maybe. Like I put it on a list to like keep an eye on it if it ever became available now. Like thinking, maybe I'll get to it, but it's so hyped and it's so long, and it feels like a YA novel that's gonna burn me bad because of how hyped it is and how like no one seems to have a bad word to say about it. Makes me nervous. So it seemed like too much of a time investment for a book that I probably wouldn't like. So since this is a sequel, I don't think so. I could say if I have a lot of spare time on my hands, maybe I'll try Strange the Dreamer, but I don't really have a whole lot of time on my hands, so probably not. And then the third book that was nominated in this category was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So this is my explanation for not wanting to read this. Is going to sound unfair, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Holly Black co-write a series with Cassandra Clare? Like, they're really good friends, aren't they? And like, I've always associated Holly Black with Cassandra Clare. Maybe they didn't write a series, but they've definitely collaborated on books together, right? And I've tried reading Cassandra Clare. I'm not like a huge fan of her, like personally, just because I'm old enough to know how she acted in fandom. So just no. But then also I have read the first 3 Shadowhunter books, and they're bad. Like, whew. They're not quite as bad as Sarah J. Maas, but that's not saying anything. The fact that I'm almost positive Holly Black has like collaborated with Cassandra Clare on a book, it's not making me feel confident about her writing. This is one of those, again, super hyped books. It seems that people pretty much universally love this book, which concerns me. Okay. But I have actually heard a couple people criticize this book. Primarily, I've heard them criticize the characters, like the character motivations make no sense. And so the thing about it is in my experience, character motivations making no sense is almost a staple of YA fantasy. Like, it's real prevalent. And the fact that that actually gets brought up as a critique of this book frightens me. Like, that sounds like a hot mess that I don't have time to touch. So, I have no plans to read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Is that unfair of me? Probably. You can let me know down below, based on my reading taste and everything else I've said in like this video and past videos, whether or not you think I actually might like The Cruel Prince. Tell me if I'm being unfair. Tell me if I should check it out, and I will. Because I do recognize that this is kind of like one of my sillier reasons for not reading someone. Because I have not read Holly Black. So I have not actually given her a genuine chance. And maybe I should, you know? Is The Cruel Prince the place to start, though? Let me know that down below. Because I do admit that this is like the silliest reason for not picking up a book. Well, not the silliest reason. So, those are my long, twisty, windy thoughts about the Booktube SFF shortlist for this year. All the books that I plan on reading. It's a lot, but hopefully I find some stuff that I really like. And to be frank, I am genuinely hoping that like all of these books that are like monstrously long that I'm like, I wasn't really like interested in the plot, I hope some of them blow me away, and I hope I find a new author to love. Like, I would love to be surprised. Like, totally. And maybe that's part of why I want to participate so much in reading this shortlist, because I want to find that stuff that's going to blow me away, that I'm going to love. So, we shall see. Let me know down below if you're planning on reading the shortlist, if you've got a shortlist TBR of your own, and I'll be sure and check that out. If anyone wants to buddy read any of these that I've mentioned, for sure I want to read, hit me up on Twitter or something, or here, whatever, because like that might help, especially with some of the longer ones that I'm a little afraid of reading, just because I don't do well with long fantasy novels. But yeah, anyways, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.